In terms of the causes of MECFS and just any, I mean, like Warren, you're clearly across all of the research that's you've been part of and that's taking place. Um, yeah, is there anything that would be beneficial to share in that space?
Yeah, I mean, I now have gradually come to a view about this illness, which is it's a complex illness and so difficult for clinicians and people affected because really what it is, it's the individual's body physiology responding to a particular major stress. It's not like diabetes. When I go with pre-diabetes to my clinician, they really are treating the disease rather than treating the person almost. Whereas MECFS requires treatment of and focus on the individual person. And I've come to that in part from the fact that my research, I've got a very homogeneous group of young university women. Their course of disease is the same, their degree of functionality is the same. They're very impressive young women. When all of the studies we've done on them, they are like unique individuals. They have differences in the molecular responses that are going on in their body. So, um, yeah, so so that's a sort of a critical thing I think about the cause and the susceptibility of people to get this disease. Is it's a mixture of, I think, we've done a study last year, a quantitative survey. So we've concluded that it's nature and nurture. That is to say, certainly there's a familial component. I mean, that came out very strongly for our survey. There's one recent publication which from the UK, which now has said there's a very strong genetic connection. So that's sadly what you inherit from your, parents and family, that you have a more of a susceptibility. But it's also your previous personal health history gives a susceptibility as well. So these things are causes for the particular individual, and then the illness response, relates to kind of basically what you are as an individual. So we talked about exercise before. For example, these 5 university women who have a reasonable amount of activity. They can do studies. They generally have to take a day off a week from lectures, and they need a bit more time in exams, but they're doing really, really well. When we did the post-exertional malaise study on them, um, you know, some showed their cardiopulmonary effects were quite dangerous when they did exercise, and others were like very unfit normal human beings. In other words, their cardiopulmonary parameters reacted like that. So they're individuals, really. And I think that's the critical thing. And people talk about subtypes now. Um, and I've done kind of a detailed investigation I've just published on this. I mean, really, subtypes comes down to each individual. What I think subtypes are important about is if we can link a therapeutic option to a kind of a group of people, within the ME community. So this is the best therapeutic option for them, maybe a different therapeutic option for someone else, because we know that, for example, things like vitamin B12, which is helpful to many ME/CFS patients. My daughter, it made her illness worse. Um, Pregnancy, for example, a natural physiological phenomenon. My daughter had the best year of her ME life when she was pregnant, whereas other women, their symptoms get a lot worse, and some have no change. So it's a kind of ME/CFS is a disease like a third, where some people get benefit from things, some people get no effect, and some people, their illness gets worse.
Mm. And just to add a little to that, I found it really helpful understanding that ME/CFS long COVID is considered a multi-system disease. So it's affecting all these different parts of your body. It might be the brain, the blood vessels, the metabolism, all these different things. Just it, even when you know it's a real thing, it can just be really helpful to hear that again. That it's not just in the head. There's evidence of things like in long COVID, potentially microclots, I think they call it, in the blood, but also heart pumping, things like that. I know Warren's done some stuff on the microglia, the immune system in the brain. There's lots of different evidence that has been found on things. So just for all those people out there who still have that little bit of self-doubt, which is so hard to get rid of, there really is so much physical evidence. It's just the hard thing, I guess, is knowing what's the fire and what's the smoke, or if it's just shifting the whole body into a kind of unhealthy but manageable thing, and then figuring out how to shift that back. And definitely, we were talking about de-stressing things. That seems to be one way to put yourself in the right situation for helping all those different systems potentially get to a better space.